This is Reasonable Doubt with your hosts, Mark Garrigus and Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get on. It's just making a get it on. And welcome to the best hour or so in the universe. It's Reasonable Doubt. I'm Adam Carolla. It's Mark Garrigus in his New York City office.
Yes, a completely decked out courtesy of Gary Patrick Smith and Tyler, the Seaman over here.
I saw you pop up on a Fox show last night, I do believe.
I want you to know that I have been wall to wall on Fox, Newsmax, Megyn Kelly, back on Fox. And do you know how many times that your name has been invoked on all of those shows?
I wouldn't know.
Megyn really takes good care of you. I don't know if you're aware of that, but Megyn never misses an opportunity to talk about Adam.
Well, I love Megyn Kelly because any chick that thinks like a dude but looks like Megyn Kelly, that's the ultimate package right there.
So I was telling this story today that I've known Megyn since, I think I've told you this story before. I've known her since probably 20 years. And when I first met her, she had just stopped or had wound down from practicing law and was starting on this kind of adventure that she's now on, where she's taken over the media world. And I knew then, I mean, it's interesting you say that. I don't know that I would have articulated as thinks like a dude, but I thought, what a brain on this woman, and what a complete package.
Oh, yeah, they're women. Look, a lot of people think it's a pejorative one way or the other. You know, we have a mayor in our city, Mayor Garcetti, who thinks like a chick. Now, you can decide whether that's good or bad. And then there are women who think like dudes, and there's dudes who think like chicks. It's pretty evenly distributed. She just happens to be a woman who thinks like a dude. And I adore her as well. And it's funny that you, who used to be the king of CNN, is now been banished from the palace and has to just show up on Newsmax and Fox, even though you're a card-carrying Democrat. What is happening?
Not only that, they had me on this morning. And, usually when I'm on, there used to be a woman on their morning show on Newsmax, Rachel. I used to call her Baby Bump when she was pregnant. And I thought she had a bright future. I still do. But now today I was on, and I'm trying to remember his name. It's Rob, but I don't want to get his last name wrong. I affectionately call him Border Bro because, I mean, he loves to talk the border. And, and that Newsmax audience loves the border reports. And Border Bro, and I actually had quite a fun time this morning. It's the first time I've done the morning show with Border Bro, and that coming on the heels of Jesse last night and Judge Janine last week. Judge Janine is really, she's another one I think people underestimate. She used to be a real DA and used to be a real judge. People have she's been caricatured, if you will, Saturday Night Live and the rest of the places, but this was somebody who had a day job and a real day job.
I heard during the trial, and I guess we can start with the Depp Heard trial, which is why you've been making the rounds on some of these outlets. Somebody else brought up her insurance paying for, and it's something I'd never heard of or thought of until you brought it up, but some other pundit brought up the fact that it must be her insurance that is, footing the bill for her legal expense. Although I know I have 1,000 questions for you because her legal defense must have gotten into several $1 million, right? Over $2 million?
Easy. I mean, I know of cases that have not gone to trial, where insurance companies on a homeowner's policy have paid upwards of $4 million without even going to trial. Oh. This is a full-blown trial. And by the way, for those who don't understand what this insurance reference is, the fact that Depp sues her, and mind you, clearly she's going to claim a claim under homeowners policy, not the least of which you could point to Exhibit A, defecation in the bed. I mean, it happened in the home. They're talking about it in the home. Where was she when the op-ed was written or published, or this or that? But there's going to be, we can get into the weeds on reservation of rights, but I believe and will continue to believe that once he sued her, that triggered a homeowner's policy or a excess personal liability policy. Then when she cross-complained or countersued against him, then I'm going to bet also that triggered a policy of his. And I'll bet you at some point the various legal teams negotiated with the insurance companies for probably either a reduced rates or a buyout of the policies. And then what you've got here, because one of the things that we talked about, I quoted you because one of my favorite the analysis that you've given was the one you did on Bill Maher, where you talked about your takeaway, besides the people outside who have no job, is your other takeaway was this is Johnny Depp with Exhibit A as F me money. And it's F me money is beautiful, especially when the insurance company is footing part of the bill. You know what I mean?
So last time I saw you in person, you were gassing up Big Boy and you're heading out to an event that would make the news the next day. But tragically, there was the whole Texas school shooting, which dominated the news. But I also saw some snippets of Kaepernick. Kaepernick's trying out for the Raiders. And
for the Raiders, it had, by all accounts, and this is public, I'm not revealing anything else, but publicly, the Raiders have said he was very impressive. That same day, we also had another NFL event, resolved another case with Jawan James. So it was quite last whatever week that was. I've been all over the place. Was quite an NFL week, and now we're waiting to see what happens with the Raiders. But clearly, for those who were saying, or questioning Colin, he had a more than impressive workout, if you believe everything coming out of the Raiders organization. Interestingly,
where was that done?
In Vegas.
Oh, you flew out to Vegas. Okay.
Yeah. And then from Vegas, Denver, and been all over the place. Denver was the beautiful Broncos facility. Gary may insert a picture later on of me at the Broncos location, which was, they've got quite a setup over there.
Are the Raiders, I mean, Derek Carr had a good year last year, as if memory serves. So is Colin going for the backup? Like, if you're going for the Raiders, Derek Carr's number one, had a good season, I believe. So is he looking to make the team as in a backup capacity?
Yeah, I think Colin has publicly said on numerous occasions now, look, just let him in the door, give him a chance, and he'll do what it takes. When you've played at the level he's played at, you can understand this because of some of the amazing things you've accomplished. But at a certain point, the competitive juices are such that as well as he's done off the field, you still have that urge while you can to, there you go. That's me at the Broncos facility with Juwan.
Kaepernick is 34? What is he? 30?
Yeah, I think he just turned 34, if memory serves. And by the way, for those who don't remember, was played in Nevada as well. In his college
ball. And also there's an element of the game can take its toll on the body, but his body has rested, recovered, and rejuvenated over the last few years. He doesn't have the same mileage a 34-year-old would have in the league after being sacked 128 times in the last 5 seasons that they were in the league. So I don't think age is a thing. The Raiders historically would take the cast-offs and the misfits, and they were the island of broken toys. Lyle
John Matusak, the twos. I mean, you could just go on and on. I mean, the Raiders were, for guys of our vintage, it didn't get any better than the Raiders.
Yeah, but they have a history of taking guys who are outliers, who may have ran afoul of the league or what have you, and saying you may resurrect your career with us. So the Raiders of all places have that in their lineage, at least. And so it makes sense. But do you think the Raiders, how sincere are they? Are they saying we are looking for a second quarterback in all earnestness, or this is good publicity for us, or we're the Raiders, so we like doing these things where we get some headlines? Like, how earnest are they in your estimation?
I think that Mark Davis, when he publicly came out, I don't know him. I have run across Al at various times, and for years I've talked with Amy Trask about Al and the Raiders organization. Amy, who's now on CBS doing football, and who's chairman of the board of the Big Three, where I've had some affiliation over the years, is I've heard 1,000 stories out of Amy about Al. And I would assume that I take Mark at his word. I think Mark said we welcome him with open arms, and I'm sure that if they feel like they have the need there, I sure hope. I'm out of the Kaepernick prediction business because your comments section on your videos is already filled up with people going, "Yeah, Mark, is he going to sign next week?" But it sure seems like a great fit to me on a million different levels.
Did you witness it? Did you talk to Kaepernick about it?
No. The stopped off there, then jumped over to Denver, where that picture Gary just showed, and was going to do the second half another thing, but we ended up resolving that. It was quite a multi-state, multi-team NFL day for us for G&G that day.
All right, let me hit a quick sponsor. New one, Backbone. You can level up your game with Backbone. Instantly play hundreds of games on your iPhone. No console required. Backbone transforms your iPhone into a handheld console so you can play it anywhere, anytime. Just connect your iPhone to Backbone to enjoy console quality controls with responsive buttons and triggers as well. Clickable, analog, sticks, and more. Gary, you got some thoughts here?
Yeah, man, they sent me one of these. I used to like to play video games. I really don't have time anymore now that I'm a dad, and the times that I maybe do is when I'm, stuck in an airport or on a bus or something. And this thing's really cool because you can put your phone in there and you got the regular controls, and then you can fire up your system at home and you can play all your games remotely on your phone. It couldn't be cooler. Backbone's really awesome.
It's a nice piece. I was just looking at it. You can stream hundreds of games like FIFA, Halo, Minecraft through the cloud gaming services like Xbox, Game Pass, okay, here's this one.
It's NVIDIA GeForce Now.
NVIDIA GeForce Now and Google Stadia as well. TechCrunch calls it the closest we've ever seen to a portable Xbox, right, Gary?
That's absolutely right. Go to playbackbone.com/doubt now to order your Backbone until June 30th and get free access to over 350 console games and perks, including 1 month free of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, 1 month free of Apple Arcade, 2 months free of Google Stadia Pro, and 3 months free of Discord Nitro. Find your next adventure at playbackbone.com/DOUBT.
So what's going to happen with the Depp Amber Heard trial? How much money is going to actually change hands?
Well, this is the analysis I think that's going to go on at this point. First of all, the insurance adjusters are probably feverishly figuring out what they're going to do. And when I say that, he got an award from the jury after apparently the jury did not fill out the numbers. The judge had to send them back, but the award was $10,000 in compensatory. $10 million, then $5 million in punitive. Now, Virginia has got a cap, and the cap is 350. So the judge immediately, after reading the verdicts, then took the 5 million and remitted it down to 350. So his gross award was 10,350,000. Then her award was 2 million against his lawyer as statements that were attributed to him. So his gross award is offset by 2 million. It's 8,350,000 is the net award. So now the insurance companies are probably trying to do the analysis of, do we take this on appeal? And Heard has already filed a notice of appeal, apparently, or has indicated they're going to. And do we challenge this idea that she could be held liable for a jury verdict form that talks about the headline, which she didn't write? And that was one of the first questions that the jurors asked, was about the headline. And so you've got at least a colorable argument, an appellate argument there. And then there's also this idea for her retweeting the article with the headline. And famously, headlines are not written by the people who do the body. It's generally by somebody who does the copy or the layouts. Then there's going to be probably, if she files the appeal, Depp's side will do a cross appeal, which means they will appeal the 2 million award against them. And they will make the argument, I'm sure, that the statements were not by Johnny Depp that he was held liable for. They were by Adam Waldman, who is a lawyer / agent who was speaking presumably on Johnny's behalf, and that there was probably what's called litigation privilege or some kind of an immunity, and that he should not be, Depp shouldn't be held, and the insurance company for Depp should not be held liable there. And so those would be some of the issues. I saw this morning that Heard's lawyer was on one of the morning shows, and she was articulating that there was all kinds of other evidence that the judge excluded, didn't let into evidence, that she believes would have turned the tide on this case. That's an interesting appellate argument, although I will tell you that usually the appellate judges will leave those kinds of evidentiary decisions alone unless there's what's called an abuse of discretion, and they don't want to second guess. There was a judge once who made the comment that that trial judges are more like shortstops and appellate judges are more like outfielders. That the shortstop's got to react in real time to a ground ball, and that the outfielder gets to kind of sit and wait and contemplate the ball as it's coming to him. And so the outfielders aren't going to second guess the shortstop who may have kind of fumbled an air or something like that. They just figure, one out of every whatever, that's going to come through anyway. So those are kinds of the issues. Now what's happening is the insurance company may say between themselves, hey, let's decide on a number between us, and we will maybe transfer money from one insurance company to another, and that will be the way that we deal with that, because there's always the backdrop of what's called a reservation of rights, and whether they defend it and whether the defense can recoup their costs out of the award, or whether the award would go straight to Johnny Depp. There's all kinds of levels to this, and all kinds of calculations and all kinds of negotiations. And I think ultimately, if you're right, and it's really about me money, that Johnny wanted to make a point, and he certainly, much to, and I will admit, I would have counseled him otherwise, but he's got me money, so he doesn't have to listen. He may just say, I don't care, I proved my point, I've kind of swung public opinion, and at this point, do whatever you're going to do. I want out of this thing.
So the first 5 million gets knocked down to 350K because it's in Virginia, right?
Correct. And they've got very similar in California. there's what's called a new bill just got passed that raised it, but there's a micro cap. So in med mal cases, you were traditionally limited to 250 grand. You get a $20 million award, but on med malpractice, but there was a 250 cap.
And Johnny's or Amber's $2 million doesn't have that cap.
Correct. It does not have that cap. And she did not get, they did not find, the jury did not find, you got to find malice, and that's a state of mind in order to award punitives against somebody. So the jury found that Amber acted with malice. Her state of mind was a malignant, for lack of a better term, and that's why they assess punitive damages. When asked the same question about Depp or Depp's people, they did not find malice or that any of the statements that Waldman made were with malice.
All right, why don't you hit your spot, and then we'll move on to other subjects.
Well, it's very interesting that we've been talking about insurance, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Because Geico, would you love to save money on insurance? I could guess quite a few people would. Of course, who doesn't love a deal? When it comes to great rates on insurance for everything, Geico can help. Insurance for your car, your truck, motorcycle, boat, RV, even homeowners, condo, or renters. Save even more with a special discount. Well, guess what? You bundle your coverages. Plus, add the easy-to-use Geico mobile app, 24-hour roadside assistance, and switch to Geico, or switching to Geico becomes a no-brainer. Switch today. See how you could save. Simply go to geico.com, GEICO.com, to get a rate quote or contact your local agent. Right, Gary?
That's absolutely right. Geico.com.
All right. So there's the Sussman trial. There's
so let's talk about Sussman. What do you think about the Sussman trial? What's your take on this? For those who haven't been following, Michael Sussman was charged with one count by John Durham, who was the special prosecutor or special counsel arising out of the Russia so-called investigation, that he was charged with giving false information to his friend, who was the Mr. Baker, who was the general counsel of the FBI. And it was quite a, it's amazing to me because legally and intellectually, it was a more intriguing trial than Heard versus Depp, but it didn't have sex, drugs, and rock and roll, so it didn't get as much attention. Wouldn't you agree, Adam?
Yeah, there wasn't anything sexy or salacious about it. I mean, it is. First things first. The jury pool had many or some who contributed to the Hillary Clinton campaign, maybe another who was on Sussman's daughter's varsity rowing team or something like that. I mean, it was kind of a stacked deck. And as Mark says all the time, it's won and lost in jury selection, and they just couldn't find anyone who would go against Hillary Clinton in D.C., so it was maybe an unwinnable case. What I have heard... Yes. All
I was going to say is we went through, Gary will remind us, because I think I was boring you to tears, but we had gone through a number of the prospective jurors, and you'll remember I said it's almost inexplicable how they think they're going to win this case given the jurors they were getting.
Well, there's speculation that Durham wasn't necessarily thinking he was going to win the case, but he was going to get people under oath saying things that he might be able to use at a later date in a different venue, So some of the speculation is that, well, first off, the notion that my concern is not for Sussman. Sussman works for the Clinton campaign, and he's going to do what he does, and whoever works for Trump is going to do what they do, and that's a time and memoriam thing, and expect that all day, every day. These are sort of lobbyists. My problem comes with the FBI. My problem comes with the people who are in power, who are supposed to be impartial, who seem to be leaning one direction or the other. That's the part as an American that I don't like. Him doing what he's doing, that's fine. And then the other side does what they do. And that's all part of doing business. It's more the FBI. It's more that they work with, Perkins Coie, the law firm he was with? They said they didn't know where who he was or where they got this information or what. That is a perfect example of stupid or liar, saying we didn't know. He came to us as a concerned citizen who works for Hillary Clinton's campaign, who you're well aware of, or if you're the FBI, for Christ's sake, you should know a little something about the nuances of these kinds of endeavors. But anyway, I had heard.
It's interesting.
Yes.
It's interesting to me because while waiting to do one of these shows, Bill Barr was on in front of me, and Bill Barr was being questioned about the verdict and the prosecution, and his position is very similar to what you were just saying. Not only getting out under oath certain things, but also telling a story, that there was a message that wanted to be sent, and he was differentiating between whether we wanted a report or whether we wanted the facts or a prosecution, and which I had not thought of. I probably would take issue with a prosecutor kind of making that distinction, but it is an interesting intellectual distinction when you say, look, am I prosecuting because I want to get the conviction, or am I prosecuting because I want a story or a narrative to be out there? And, at a certain point, I'm not so sure that the latter is something that a prosecutor should be doing, but I don't want to misstate what Barr was saying, but that certainly was my takeaway from listening to him.
Well, for me, I didn't need Sussman convicted. I needed the FBI convicted. My thing is, what is the FBI doing? Not what is Sussman doing. Sussman's doing what he's paid to do. He's trying to get the person he works for elected. What is, Sussman is one team and Hillary Clinton is one team and Giuliani and Trump are the other team, but the FBI is the umpire. And my concern is with the umpire, not in the two teams that are arguing whether the guy was safe or out. The FBI's involvement is more interesting to me and compelling to me and potentially concerning to me in this case than Sussman. But there is a thought, at least, you're right, Bill Barr has, and Bill Barr is one of those guys that is, easy to turn into a cartoon character. But if you ever see him interviewed in a long format, he's very thoughtful. He has definitely some experience, and he's more balanced than you would think he was in terms of.
Well, look, I disagree. I disagree on a lot of the positions with him, but I've said before with you, I disagree all the time with prosecutors on various positions, but that doesn't mean that I don't have a great deal of respect for somebody who's got kind of a pedigree and a wealth of knowledge and experience. I mean, this is somebody who's had 2 tours of duty as Attorney General, which in and of itself is pretty impressive. And I agree with you. When you sit and listen to him, he puts on a very compelling case, as a real lawyer should. I mean, he's able to articulate. He's able not only to articulate in the media, but in a courtroom as well. And that's a skill set. And like I said, you can disagree. I disagree with prosecutors every day, and I have for almost 40 years. But that doesn't mean that you throw bricks at them or you call them names. I mean, I think you try to engage on the intellectual merits or otherwise. See, the point where you and I may disagree on this is, you say the FBI. I always consider FBI law enforcement. I think that the proper kind of safety net or bulwark, if you will, against overreach or an agenda by law enforcement. Because let's be true to ourselves here. Law enforcement a lot of times has a narrative or an agenda. The prosecutor is supposed to be that kind of last wall that is the safety, the kind of border, if you will, around overreach. And I don't know that we want, and it comes back to what we've talked about years ago about independent counsels. I think one of the problem with independent or special counsels, whatever you want to call them, independent's been repealed or it was sunsetted, and now it's special counsels, is they operate kind of outside of the oversight that you normally have.
Well, so Sussman is free, and the jury rendered a decision, and whether you agree or disagree, no one argues with this system, so he's a free man. And then the real question is did Durham collect information along the way that he will use in a subsequent case to be continued, or is he pack it in and go home? People are speculating sort of on both sides. And so it'll be a to be continued type of situation.
Absolutely. I read two diametrically opposed viewpoints this morning. One saying this meant that he was going to pack it in. The other saying hardly. I'm juxtaposing them, but the other was articulating the idea of this is just the beginning. It's not the end. And he's got now people under oath that have kind of connected some dots for him, and that's the direction he's headed at this point. So it's very interesting to see what the next move is.
Well, your next move should be Freshly. Those pre-cooked meals and frozen, tasteless, processed Freshly. Not that. Quality meals without the hard work. Designed by nutritionists, cooked by chefs, delivered fresh, ready to eat in 3 minutes at the end of a long day. Takeout shouldn't be your only option. They make so many different selections, and they're all top shelf and all top quality, just delicious. You can use the Freshly website or app to find meals that fit your lifestyle, dietary needs, taste, and family size. Choose from over 50 nutritionist-designed entrees. New meals added weekly. You can skip the grocery shopping and the dirty dishes and go with Freshly. Right, Gary?
That's absolutely right. Stop stressing about dinner. Right now, Freshly is offering our listeners $125 off your first orders when you go to freshly.com/doubt. That's $125 off at freshly.com/DOUBT.
All right. What other stories are we thinking about? I don't know what happened to Mark, if he fell off.
Mark's probably just checking other stuff on his phone. But we got Gruden to talk about.
Gruden.
We got all kinds of stuff.
What happened
before
with
we
Gruden?
talk about Gruden, there's one thing
Elon.
prior to Gruden.
Elon.
Yeah, exactly. Adam, I saw this, and I was going to call you up. I was going to interrupt whatever the hell you were doing, but instead I just sent it to Gary, and I said, save it for on air.
Adam,
Gary,
have you seen the latest from Elon on Twitter?
Get the fuck back to work?
Yes, exactly right. And then when one of his super progressive fans replied back to his tweet saying, this leaked email, a lot of people don't want to go back to work. Like, what do you suggest for those people? And he replied, pretend to work at some other company.
Yes. Elon, it's funny when you go, oh, that guy's a genius. Oh, that guy's a genius. Oh, I love Elon. He's just saying all the shit I think all day, every day. It drives me, nuts. And I don't know when he turned into this guy, but his transformation was much faster than Caitlyn Jenner's transformation. Like, he became a Korean War veteran who had a hose and was like on the lawn. He became like Clint Eastwood from Gran Torino or something in like 10 minutes. And I love this version of him. I feel the exact same way. This new world order of everyone's going to work from their home, and
this is this is a meme he tweeted famously about, yes. I don't know, 3 months ago, just illustrating his political leanings and such.
Right. I think he tweeted, you can, once you've worked 40 hours, you're free to work at home or something like that as well. And you want to talk about F me money. He may be having the best time ever with his F me money.
But it's so true. You feel his pain in a certain way. It's just so many people just assume now that I don't know, why do I have to go back to work? Why am I working? I want to work from here. I want to work there. I'm not going to show up. And it's just like, well, but God forbid if you wait an hour to pay to give somebody their paycheck, they're on speedy dial with the labor board. It's got to be frustrating to him. And I'll tell you what else is frustrating to him because he's filed a couple of lawsuits on it. He's got the SEC doing proctology exams on him at all times because he's a public company, and he's entered into a stipulation at one point. Now, recently tried to get it dissolved, and he got nowhere with that. And then he's dealing with famously during COVID. I think you'll remember this, Adam. They were trying to close down his plant in California. And He basically told Newsom, go pound sand. And I'm telling you, COVID accelerated and revealed more than people, I think, ever imagined. I mean, yes. It really has revealed quite a bit, not the least of which is the economic situation this country is in right now.
Well, what it did is it revealed both sides in both directions, so you're right. What got Elon Musk to move so fast in such a short period of time? Yes, thank COVID for that. And then you can look at Australia, and you can look at Canada, and you can look at certain blue state governors, and you can go, what got them so fast the other direction as well? COVID. Like it just was an accelerant. It was like adding fuel to a brush fire. It was like dumping diesel fuel on a brush fire. Like it got everyone who was, if you were Howie Mandel, you went hard one direction with COVID. If you're Adam Carolla, you went hard the other direction. It got people to move at an accelerated pace in a direction they were already sort of leaning or moving. So Elon definitely got that. I think he's probably feeling firsthand what it's like when you get on the wrong side of the quad at school where the popular kids hang out. Once you run afoul of the popular kids, they will go after you. And I feel like and we've seen it. No one ever talks about it, but under the Obama administration, they got the IRS to go after groups who are, when their charity status and whatever, they took the IRS and weaponized them and told them go after these groups who disagree with us. Like, this is not new. You run afoul of people politically, they will start looking into you and they will find something. So I think that's part of what he's dealing with. But the other part of it is this thing where, and this is the New World Order, if most businesses said, I will give you 2 Mondays off in a row, I'm feeling generous. You don't have to come in this weekend, we'll make it a 3-day weekend, and the next weekend we'll make it a 3-day weekend, because that's how generous I'm feeling as an employer. The third weekend, they would be pissed off. What the fuck? And then you go, what do you mean? I gave you 2 weekends off in a row. And they go, no third weekend? Because this is what we're used to now. We do a 4-day week. This is bullshit. That's the New World Order. And that's the problem that Elon is probably dealing with. And one thing he said that I liked in whatever his tweets were is the people on the factory floor, the people that are actually putting metal together and assembling the vehicles, they don't get to work from home or the Starbucks or the Chipotle on the corner. They have to come in and actually work. So you should come in as well.
Didn't he have one, Gary, something about if you're doing HR in Fremont location remotely, I don't need you, or something something along those lines. I was chuckling to myself that is the epitome of the sublime to the ridiculous, that you're a head of HR, but you don't show up and you're not at the location itself or in the geographical location. I mean, how utterly absurd could that be? But first, I'll just talk about something that I think we've had them before, but they're back again. The ladders, post and pray. That's what happens when you post management positions on a typical job website and you're buried under hundreds of not so qualified candidates. Speaking of what we were just speaking of, got an open job, step up to the ladders, see how much faster they can deliver superbly qualified candidates. And right now you can try it for free. Get that free. You don't have to waste time on underqualified candidates. Your task is to quickly screen, connect, and deliver superbly qualified candidates. Ladders saves you time with a tap-to call. One-click contact, unlimited resume downloads, and advanced features that separate active, ready-to-hire candidates from those looky-loos. Those are just shopping. Right, Gary?
That's right. Let the ladders prove how much faster they can deliver the right candidates to your inbox for free. Bring your open job spec to theladders.com/podcast to start your 7-day free trial. theladders.com/podcast.
All right. What else did you have on your mind, Mark?
The interesting thing about it, too, is he also made the statement, and I know a lot of people poo-pooed it, because they didn't want to deal with the facts of it. He came out and he said that, he's always voted Democratic, but he can't handle some of the stuff. I don't want to paraphrase him. And now he was voting Republican. And I was talking to a couple of different people today.
He said the Democrats have become cruel or some version of that.
Yeah, mean, I think. Right.
Yes.
I think that's it. It'll be very interesting to see on Tuesday of next week. There's a couple of little microcosms, I think, that will be interesting to take a look at to judge what's happening, especially in the Democratic Party. If you're going to do a Petri dish, LA County is probably the best Petri dish you could do for the Democratic Party. Why do I say that? The sheriff's race and the mayor's race, here it is, because they were mostly the kindness party, right? Now they become the party of division and hate. I can no longer support them or vote Republican. Now watch their dirty tricks campaign. And mind you, by the way, the first thing that happened after he did that is everybody said, oh, you're just trying to preempt the allegations or the release of the $250,000 payoff for asking somebody to give you a happy ending on your airplane. Since when is that a crime?
Oh my God.
So the for those of you who know, you get that was a joke. Just kidding.
Okay. I normally like sitting in Mark's chair on his plane when he's not there, but I have to rethink that sheepskin cover and what it's seen. And
maybe August can sit there after all.
Yeah, Mike, go ahead and enjoy your Cheez-Its.
You're not going to kick August out of there.
No, not anymore.
So the two races that I'm very, very anxious to see what happens on June 7th is first the mayor's race, because you have Rick Caruso versus Karen Bass. Now, Karen Bass is kind of the progressive prototype, send to central casting California Democrat. 2 years ago, she probably would have won this race in a walk for mayor of LA. Now she's pitted up against Rick Caruso, who has been kind of, the LA Times has done their number on him. They beat him over the head. He's basically he's a Republican in Democrat clothing. He was a Republican until 2011. He's, a billionaire. He created the Grove, which is, a kind of a faux location, which is appeals to the worst in humanity, blah, blah, blah. The whole, what you would expect out of the caricature that is the Times.
Yeah.
I suspect that he is going to do a lot better than people expect. That's my prediction, if you will. I think he's going to not only make it to the runoff, but I think do a lot better. And the other race is Alex Villanueva for sheriff, who we had on as a guest. There is not a day that goes by that the LA Times has not vilified him on a daily basis with increasingly kind of unhinged articles, editorials, and just takes on the race. And mind you, he was the darling of the Democrats when he was elected.
Mark,
he ran against.
Can I break in with a quote from the LA Times this morning?
About Villanueva?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Villanueva, quote, really broke our hearts, said Cynthia Hart, corresponding secretary for the Culver City Democratic Club, which endorsed him during the 2018 election he would go on to win. Quote, I thought he was George Gascon. I thought he was a reformer. I thought he was the real thing, she said, referring to LA County's progressive district attorney, who is facing a recall pushed by Villanueva and others who object to what they see as his lenient approach to criminal justice.
Yeah, can
you believe this? I'm sorry, Adam. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, look, he's the fucking sheriff, and there's people flopped out all over Venice Beach, strung out on fentanyl, swinging machetes around, small businesses scared to open, and he said, I'm going to do something about it. He's the sheriff. That's what he does. When the Dalton boys blow into town, the sheriff meets him at the train station, you fucking idiots. It's fine to have counselors, and it's fine to have psychologists, and it's fine to have, folks that are putting flowers into the barrels of the guns of the Minutemen. But at some point, you have to have a sheriff, you have to have a cop, you have to have laws, you have to have prisons, you have to have these things. No one wants them, but we all have to have them. Otherwise, we have crazed homeless people beaked out of their fucking brains on fentanyl running around pushing people in front of subway trains. Sorry. I know you want to live in a world with unicorns and pixie dust, but there's bad people out there, and we need to elect people to incarcerate those people on occasion. So,
well, it's also what I just don't understand as you label me, and I accept and embrace. I am a card-carrying Democrat. I have been my entire life. So whatever that is, well over 40 some odd years, I've been registered and voting Democrat. However, take a look. Probably the single most progressive community in the city of Los Angeles is where? Venice?
Yeah, Venice. Venice Beach.
Venice
right.
Beach. I have talked to and gone down there to both sides of both coalitions, both the homeless coalition and the business owners and residents coalition. I've talked to both who have been, who've wanted to engage on there's got to be something to be done. Both sides recognize this is a shitstorm that we have created. And it's a shitstorm that has been created by people who will not recognize that some of these policies, not all, but some of these policies just don't work. You can't tell me that you've got neurons firing and that you can't look at, as you say, some somebody swinging a machete or somebody screaming at the top of their lungs, out of their minds, obviously in mental health distress, and we're just going to let that happen? And then why are we telling law enforcement, you're the one who's got to solve that problem, or the prosecutor, you're the one who's got to solve that problem? Take some of those resources, deal with engagement on the mental health level. But God forbid you want to do that, and you're somebody like Catherine Barger, who's on the board of supervisors, who wants to appoint Drew, who maybe has got some idea about mental health and addiction services and things like that, and who comes out immediately on a blast campaign to take it down, but none other than the El Segundo Times, who fled downtown LA to go out to the suburbs in El Segundo because they don't want their people having to work in downtown LA because there's no way you can protect them.
It's crazy pills time, and yes, a regime change is in order. All right, let me hit our last sponsor, Truebill. Wonder why free trials renew without your consent? It's a scam. Don't let corporations pocket your money. Download Truebill and take control of your subscriptions. Truebill, it's a new app that helps you identify and stop paying for subscriptions you don't need, want, or simply forgot about. On average, people save up to $720 a year. Truebill has helped 2 million plus users save over $100 million. Just link your accounts and Truebill will cancel your unwanted subscriptions in one tap. It is that fast. It is that easy. It is Truebill. Right, Gary?
That's right. Don't fall for subscription scams. Start canceling today at truebill.com/doubt. Go right now, truebill.com/doubt. That's DOUBT. It could save you thousands a year. Truebill.com/DOUBT.
All right.
Yes. to put a cap on that, the reason I say that next Tuesday is going to be interesting is because this election, I think, is the canary in the coal mine for November. And so I think what's the last time I saw is I think LA County is 70% Democratic, maybe more. If you find that somebody like Rick Caruso, and if you find that somebody like Villanueva, who has been castigated by his own Democratic Party and who has a daily drumbeat of the LA Times just slamming the hell out of him, if those two do well, I think that tells you an awful lot about what a lot of the people on the bell curve in the middle of this Democratic Party are thinking, and just how out to lunch the party leaders are. But that's me and my soapbox.
No, I completely agree, and it'll be interesting. All right, you can go to AdamCarolla.com for all the live shows, because I'm coming to a town near you. What do you got, Mark?
Well, we've got Gigi's at Palm Springs. Come by. It's open at the V Palm Springs. We've got Casa Tropicana in San Clemente. Come over, go walk on the beach, have a drink over at Pierside. Go to Capri in the Hamptons. Naya is open now, and that's no better place to be seen or heard than in the Hamptons. And if you're in New York City, come by Prova in the Grand Central Terminal and have a slice on me.
So, until next time, Adam Carolla for Mark Garriga saying mahalo.
Thanks for listening to Reasonable Doubt. Tune in next Saturday for an all-new episode.